In this video, I'm going to show you what hunting pressure is and how you can avoid that and fix it on your property. So we're getting pretty close to the season, almost a month away for me, and I got a lot of stuff done, got tree stands set up, might set up another one around Labor Day. I've got to plant some, probably some rye in the food plot because a lot of my brassicas got washed down, so we got a lot of good rain, which I'm thankful for that. But where the brassicas got to the edge of the food plot and where they got washed down, I'm going to be planting rye right there in about a week now, so, or close to it, and we'll have a good food plot and all of that. But making sure going into the hunting season that we don't have any hunting pressure for the entire time that we're hunting. And obviously sometimes you're going to spook deer. That's just part of the game. No matter how hard that you try not to spook deer, you're going to spook deer every once in a while. But you can try to avoid that. You can just take some extra steps right now so that way you can increase your odds of not having that happen while you're hunting. So number one, hunting pressure is your access. And so this is where a lot of people have hunting pressure and they have no clue about it. If your access is off, if you're riding, I have ATV right under that. If you're riding ATVs, not even halfway, a quarter of the way, if you're riding ATVs, you're still spooking those deer that are around that spot. And those deer can hear that ATV from miles away. And you need to make sure that you're not riding the ATVs to your tree stands. But the access is very important. If you're accessing through a bedding area to get to a tree stand in your food plot, that's not going to work because those deer are going to be in that bedding area. Vice versa for the evening. You can't, in like food plots, if you have a big, say redneck blind on a tower, you set it right in the middle of your 3-acre food plot. You're walking through your food plot where you're super open, the deer can see you, leaving your scent on the plants and stuff, then you're right in the middle of the food plot making noise. That's just not a good thing, and that's not good access, and you're not going to see, I'm not saying you're not going to see deer, you're just not going to see old, mature deer and mature bucks if you're doing that. So access is very important. The way you access determines whether you're going to see deer or not. If you're accessing through fields in the morning, in some cases you have to access through fields. Like around here we have so many fields that it's impossible not to access through it to get to a tree stand. So what I do is I wait till it's just barely light outside. I might even get to the field edge as quietly as possible and wait there until I can see to the back of that field and just check my surroundings, make sure there's no deer, and then head into my stand because I know exactly where it's at. So making sure you're doing that too if you have to access through ag fields. If you don't have to access through ag fields, that's the best. Even if you have to walk another 10-15 minutes around to not access through those ag fields, then it's going to reward you because you're not spooking those deer off while they're feeding in the ag fields. So like I said, access is very important. And number two is tree stand locations. I kind of already covered that in the food plot. Like if you're putting a big blind up in a food plot, that's not going to work. Same goes if you're putting it up in a bedding area. If you're putting it right in the middle of a bedding area, you're going to bump that buck off. You're going to bump those mature deer off, and you're not going to be able to see them. And so even if you're hunting that bedding area in the morning and you're waiting for them to come from the fields to that bedding area, you're still too close for those deer are going to walk right by you and catch your wind or something like that. So you need to I always hunt on the outside edge of the bedding area. Never hunt in the middle of the bedding area and in 99% of the time, 95% of the time in most circumstances. And then number 3 is hunting too much, and that is almost as good as access. If you're hunting way too much, I've heard a lot of people, even really famous hunters that are professional hunters, and you're watching them on TV or YouTube or something like that, and they're saying they're putting in so many hours of tree stand time, and it's not paying off. They're not seeing mature bucks, and that's because when you're hunting that stand so much, the deer are going to get used to you walking in, and they're going to know not to be in that spot. They're there after once you get out of your stand in the evening, they're going to roam that spot, and eventually the deer are going to catch on. If you're hunting the same exact tree stand, and even hunting multiple tree stands, they're still going to catch on. And if you're hunting all the time, then it's not going to work for you. You're not going to see a lot of mature bucks. And so number 4 is scent. If your scent is blowing, if you're not even worrying about your scent, that's the number one thing when you're in the tree stand, is where is your scent going. If the wind changes, the thermals change in the morning, and that scent's going a different way, and you have the possibility of spooking a buck that you're waiting for to go on this particular trail, then it might even be best to get out of that stand and go transition to a new stand where the wind is right. So if you have a tree stand in mind for tomorrow morning's hunt, say, for example, always have a second tree stand in mind. If you have a good amount of tree stands and multiple tree stands, always have a second tree stand in mind with another wind direction, because the wind can always change no matter what the weather says. So always be aware of what the wind is doing. And then number 5 is adjustments. And so this is really important. It's not a super big thing, but this is important too. If you're adjusting tree stands, if you're moving tree stands, if you're moving blinds, pop-up blinds, I've done that before, set up a pop-up blind during the rut. That's the only time of the year that I'm going out into the woods and setting up a pop-up blind. Or say in the middle of a field for shotgun weekend, I'm setting up a pop-up blind then. But I'm not going in every single time that I hunt on my property to set up a pop-up blind. Any adjustments, even trail camera adjustments, you need to make sure that you're getting all those adjustments down right before the season, so that way you can have a good hunt. So I hope that this list helps you, and I hope that you don't have hunting pressure. And if you have hunting pressure in the past, try fixing these things. Is your access right? Are your tree stand locations in the right spot? Are you hunting too much? Is your scent in the right spot? And number 5, are you making last minute adjustments that you shouldn't have to make? Right now is the best time making those adjustments right now, so that way you don't have to worry about it going into the season. And so with hunting too much, if you have multiple properties to go through too, that's a really good thing. So say I have 2 properties that I primarily hunt, and I might be doing a little bit of public land this year, but say I'm hunting at my property right now, and I have 2 private properties. This is my first private property. If I'm hunting this property, I spooked a mature buck, and I spooked multiple deer for some reason, then I'm going to go to the second property and hunt maybe even 2 weekends in a row, or just however much time it needs to be until deer start feeling safer. And so that way, it's just a good thing to do, making sure that you're not going in too soon after bumping off a buck. But I hope that this helps you, and I hope that you can apply this season, so that way you can have a great hunt.